I've always believed that a peaceful home means a peaceful life. And for a while, that's exactly what I had. A cozy two-bedroom house in the suburbs, quiet mornings with coffee on the porch, and a woman I thought I understood. Her name is Julia. Smart, soft-spoken, with this calm energy that made people feel safe. When we moved in together 2 years ago, it felt like we were finally settling into the kind of life people write songs about. We didn't fight. We cooked dinner together. Watched old movies on weekends. Sometimes I'd just watch her water the plants out back and think, yeah, this is it. But something changed a few weeks ago. At first, it was small things. She'd leave the room when her phone rang. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. And once, I walked in and she was staring at an old photo in her drawer, some man I didn't recognize. She tucked it away like it burned her fingers. I didn't want to be that guy, suspicious and insecure. So I brushed it off. But then last Tuesday happened. We were sitting at dinner. I'd made my usual lemon chicken pasta, and she barely touched her plate. I asked if everything was okay. She said she was just tired. But when she got up to clear the table, her phone buzzed. And for some reason, I checked. I know I shouldn't have. But something in me, it just kicked in. Call it gut instinct or maybe self-preservation. I picked it up. Just one message was on the screen. We need to talk. You promised. I'm not going away. No name. Just that. When she came back and saw me holding her phone, she froze. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Who's trying to talk to you, Julia?" Her hands trembled a little. She reached for the phone, but I didn't let go. She sighed. Closed her eyes for a second. Then sat back down and whispered something I'll never forget. He's someone from my past. That's not an answer, I said. Who is he, Julia? She stared at her plate for so long I thought she wasn't going to say anything. Then she looked up and said, he's my ex-husband. Now here's the thing, Julia and I talked about our pasts before. She told me she had a serious relationship once, but they never got married. That's what she said. She lied. Wait, your ex-husband? You were married? I asked, louder than I meant to. She nodded, silent. Not a flicker of emotion on her face. Why didn't you tell me? I pressed. I didn't think it mattered, she said flatly. It was over a decade ago. I wanted to leave it behind. That answer didn't sit right. It felt too neat. Too rehearsed. You don't just forget to mention a marriage. Then why is he messaging you now? I asked. She opened her mouth like she had something to say, then closed it again. Her eyes darted to the window like she expected someone to be watching. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just some guy popping back up out of nowhere. He was coming for something. I leaned in and said, "Is there something you're not telling me, Julia?" Her jaw tightened. She swallowed. Then she said it. Softly. He wants money. I froze. How much? She hesitated. I don't know, yet. But I could see in her face that wasn't true. She did know. I stood up, trying to process what I'd just heard. You've been keeping this from me. Why? Are you hiding something bigger? Julia looked up at me, her voice low, almost apologetic. Please, just let me handle it. It's from a life I don't want you involved in. That's when I realized this wasn't going away. This wasn't just a past mistake. This was a threat, and it had found its way into my home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone you think you know inside and out could hide something so huge. A whole marriage. A man who was still haunting her. A man who wanted something from us. And then, around 2 a.m., I heard a car pull up. No headlights. No engine shut off. Just the crunch of gravel and the sound of footsteps coming up the driveway. I pulled the curtain back just a little. And there he was. A tall man, wearing a dark coat, standing by the mailbox. Just standing there. Looking at the house. Then, he looked straight at the window. Right at me. And smiled. He smiled like he knew me. Like we had some kind of private joke. But I had never seen this man before in my life. After that moment at the window, I stood frozen for a while. Watching. Waiting for him to move. But he didn't. He just stood there under the porch light, half-shadowed, like he was daring me to come outside. I didn't. Eventually, he turned and walked back to his car. Same slow pace. No rush, no panic. Then the engine started, and he drove off. No plates on the front of the car. Just taillights fading into the night. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, Julia moved around the kitchen like everything was normal. She made coffee, asked me if I wanted eggs. But I could see her hands were shaking when she reached for the skillet. "Did you know he came here last night?" I asked quietly. She froze. Then slowly turned to face me. "You saw him?" I nodded. She sat down across from me, her face pale. "He wasn't supposed to come here. He said he just wanted to talk." "Julia," I said carefully, "you need to tell me everything. Now. No more pieces. No more from the past. I need the whole story." She looked so tired. Not just physically. Worn down in a way that made me wonder how long she'd been carrying this secret. "His name is Marcus," she began. "We met when I was 22. He was charming, older, had a business, nice car. You know the type. I thought he was everything I wanted. We got married fast. Too fast." She paused, biting her lip. It turned ugly. Controlling. Cold. But not in a way that you could explain to anyone. He'd smile in front of people, but at home he'd keep score. Everything had a price. He said things like, "Nothing's free, Julia. Not even love." "So you left him," I said. She nodded. "Tried to. I waited until he was out of town on a business trip. Took what I could and disappeared. Changed my number. Moved across the country. I thought I'd never see him again." "Did you divorce him?" She hesitated. "I thought we did. He signed the papers, I signed mine. But I never filed them myself. I just assumed." "Assumed?" I cut in. "Julia, that's not something you just assume. If you're still legally married to this man, then we've got a much bigger problem." "I know," she whispered. "I know how it sounds. But back then, I didn't have a lawyer. I just wanted out. I wasn't thinking straight." I sat back, letting that sink in. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to yell. Part of me wanted to comfort her. But mostly, I just felt trapped. Like I was suddenly standing in someone else's story and had no idea how I got there. "And now he wants money?" I finally asked. She nodded. "He says I owe him. For everything. He said if I don't pay, he'll make things difficult. That he knows how to ruin people." I rubbed my hands over my face. "How much is he asking for?" She looked away. "Julia. 100,000. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like the only thing I could do. 100 grand. For what? Breathing his air 10 years ago. He says I'm living comfortably now. That I must have taken something when I left. That I stole his future. Did you?" She glared at me. "No. I left behind more than I ever took. But he doesn't care about truth. He cares about control." The conversation ended with silence. Thick, heavy silence. The kind that settles in your lungs. Later that day, I stayed home from work. I couldn't focus. I kept looking out the window. Checking the front yard. Checking the back. Every car that slowed near our street made my heart thump. And then, around noon, there was a knock at the door. 3 short knocks. Calm. Not desperate. I knew who it was before I even opened it. When I did, he was standing there like he owned the place. Marcus. He looked exactly like I remembered from the night before, clean-cut, expensive coat, smug smile. Afternoon, he said smoothly. Mind if I come in? I didn't answer. I just stared at him. He smiled wider. You must be the man of the house now. You've got some nerve showing up here. He glanced past me, toward the hallway. Is Julia home? You're not stepping inside this house. He raised his hands. All right, all right. No need to get hostile. I just came to talk. She doesn't want to talk to you. Well, that's too bad, he said, eyes narrowing just slightly. Because whether she wants to or not, she's going to have to deal with me. Is that a threat? No, he said, chuckling. It's a fact. See, Julia owes me. You're probably living off money she made after she left me. I built her up, trained her how to survive. I want what's mine. She doesn't owe you a damn thing, I snapped. He leaned in just a bit, voice dropping lower. Listen. I don't want to make trouble. I really don't. But I've got proof of things. Things she probably hasn't told you. Things that could hurt her reputation. Yours too. I clenched the doorframe. Leave, I said firmly. He stepped back. Fine. But here's what's going to happen. You've got 7 days to get the money together. If I don't hear from you by then, I go public. Then he turned and walked away. Just like that. I closed the door, my heart racing. I could still smell his cologne in the air, something expensive and calculated, just like him. When I went back to the kitchen, Julia was already crying. I heard everything, she said. I'm so sorry. I stood there, not knowing what to feel. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. Instead, I asked the only question I could think of. What does he have on you, Julia? She looked up, tears streaming down her face. And said nothing. I stood there, waiting for her to answer. What does he have on you, Julia? But she just looked at me, her lips parted like the words were caught somewhere in her throat. And I could see it then, whatever it wasn't just some mistake from her past. It was worse. She wiped her eyes and whispered, I need to tell you everything. I sat down across from her, heart pounding, not even sure I wanted to hear it. But I nodded. She took a deep breath. When I left Marcus, I didn't just run. I took something. Something I thought would protect me. I frowned. Took what? Documents, she said. Files from his office. He owned a small investment firm. I found out he was laundering money. Using fake accounts, false clients, stuff I didn't fully understand, but I knew it wasn't legal. So before I left, I made copies. I figured, if he ever came after me, I'd have leverage. My pulse skipped. You've been blackmailing him. I never used it, she said quickly. I just kept it. Buried it. Forgot about it. Until now. I leaned back, trying to piece everything together. You think he found out you still have those files? She nodded. He's bluffing. He doesn't know what I kept or where it is. But he knows I took something, and he's using that as his weapon. He's betting I'll panic. And pay him off. Exactly. It made sense now. The vague threats. The smile. The way he looked at me like I was just some idiot standing between him and his prize. I stood up, pacing. So where are the files? In a safe deposit box, she said. In my maiden name. Different bank, different city. I haven't touched them in years. I stared at her. I should have told you, she added, voice cracking. But I thought I was done with that life. I thought I could just move on. But Marcus hadn't moved on. He'd waited. Watched. And now he was back, with demands. I didn't say anything else that night. I couldn't. I just nodded and walked out onto the porch, letting the cool air hit my face. My world was cracking, and I was trying to figure out where to step without falling through. The next day, I went to work, but I wasn't really there. I kept checking my phone, waiting for another message, another knock. Nothing came. Just silence. Until Thursday. I got a text. Meet me. Neutral ground. We talk. No cops. 5 p.m., Ravenwood Park. No name. But I didn't need one. I debated whether to go. Whether I should involve someone else. But the truth is, I didn't trust anyone with this, not yet. I had to see him face to face. I had to know what he really wanted. At 5 p.m. sharp, I pulled into the Ravenwood Park lot. It was mostly empty. Just a few joggers and a couple walking their dog. He was already there, sitting on a bench like we were old friends meeting for coffee. I got out of the car and walked toward him slowly. Marcus looked up and smiled. I wasn't sure you'd come. I'm not here to play games, I said. Say what you need to say. He patted the bench next to him. Let's keep this civil, huh? I didn't sit. He shrugged. All right. Here it is. 100 grand. In cash. You have 5 days. And if we don't pay? His smile dropped. Then the whole world finds out what kind of woman Julia really is. I crossed my arms. You mean how she ran from an abusive husband? You think that'll hurt her more than you? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. That's not the story I'd tell. I'd start with fraud. Theft. Obstruction. I've got friends in media. One whisper about stolen documents or shady behavior, and suddenly, it's her credibility on trial. Not mine. I stared at him. You're bluffing. Maybe, he said. But are you willing to bet your future on that? I clenched my fists. Tell me something, I said. Why now? After all this time, why come back? He looked out over the trees. Because I lost everything. COVID tanked my business. The market turned. And while I was drowning, I remembered her. Julia. The one that got away with more than she should have. So this is revenge. This, he said, standing, is balance. I shook my head. You're not getting a cent. He chuckled. I figured you'd say that. Which is why I brought this. He pulled out a manila envelope and handed it to me. Go ahead. Open it when you get home. Then he turned and walked away without another word. I should have tossed it. But I didn't. At home, I sat at the kitchen table, Julia watching me as I slid the envelope open. Inside were 3 photos. One of Julia sitting in a cafe. One of her walking out of her office. And one, taken just 2 days ago, of her through our living room window. My stomach turned. She gasped. Oh my God. I flipped the photos over. Written in black ink on the back of the last one. Time's ticking. He deserves to know the rest. I looked at her. What does that mean? What haven't you told me? Julia backed away, tears forming again. I don't know. I swear, I don't know what he means by that. But deep down, I wasn't sure I believed her anymore. The silence between us after I showed her those photos was like a wall. Thick. Cold. Impenetrable. She just stood there, frozen, eyes wide, like she'd seen a ghost. Maybe she had. Maybe it was one she thought she'd buried years ago, and now here it was, sitting in our living room in full color. You said he didn't know where we lived, I said quietly. I didn't think he did, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I swear, I didn't tell him anything. Then how did he get this close, Julia? How did he get a picture of you from inside our home? Her lips trembled, but she didn't answer. That silence. That was what finally broke me. I stood up from the table and walked toward the window, staring out into the yard like maybe I'd see him standing there again. Watching. Waiting. You have to tell me everything now. No more filters. No more protecting me, or yourself, or whatever you've been trying to protect all this time. Because I'm not just your boyfriend anymore, Julia. I'm in this now. Whether I like it or not. She nodded slowly, pulled out a kitchen chair, and sat down like her legs couldn't hold her up anymore. There's something I've never told anyone. Not even my sister, she started. It's about the money. About how I left Marcus. I didn't say anything. I just listened. When I discovered what he was doing, laundering money, false investments, I was terrified. But I didn't go to the police. I didn't know who to trust. So I made copies of everything. But before I left, I took something else. I turned slowly. Took what? She looked up at me. Money. $50,000 in cash. From a hidden safe in his office. I told myself it was mine. That I earned it. That it was payback for everything he put me through. But deep down, I knew. I stole it. My jaw clenched. She kept going. I used that money to start over. New name. New job. Therapy. I thought if I rebuilt myself from the ground up, maybe I could pretend that part of my life never happened. Then I met you. And you were different. Safe. Kind. I didn't want to drag any of it into this. So you lied to me, I said flatly. I didn't lie, she stopped herself. I omitted. Because I was scared. Because I didn't want to lose you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in our relationship, I wasn't sure who I was looking at. The woman I loved, or someone I'd never actually known. And the files? I asked. They're real. I still have them. He's terrified I'll go public. That's why he's bluffing with these photos. He wants to scare me. Push me into paying him off. But if I give him that money, it won't end. He'll come back again. I sat down across from her, struggling to breathe through the tightness in my chest. We have to do something, I said. Go to the police, maybe. She shook her head. No. Not yet. If I walk in with stolen cash and files I've been hiding for a decade, I could get charged. Or worse, he could claim I manipulated the records. So what then? We just sit and wait. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what to do anymore. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I took the couch. Not because I hated her, but because I needed space. To think. To breathe. The next day, I left work early and went back to the park. I didn't tell her. Something inside me needed to see Marcus again. Not with fear. But with control. I waited by the same bench. This time, I got there first. He showed up 15 minutes later, dressed in another expensive coat and that same smug expression. Well, he said. Looks like someone's finally taking this seriously. I came alone, I told him. No cops. Just questions. Ask away, he said, sitting down. I want proof. Of what you say you know. About Julia. About what you claim she did. He smirked. She didn't tell you the full story, did she? I want your version. He leaned back, like he'd been waiting for this moment. She was clever, I'll give her that. She knew I was laundering money. She knew how to access my files. I taught her too well. And when she left, she didn't just take money. She took evidence. Stuff that could have put me away for years. But the thing is, she didn't run alone. I frowned. What do you mean? He looked me straight in the eyes. She had help. Another man. Some boyfriend she hooked up with before she left me. She told me it was over between them, but I found their emails. He helped her plan the escape. Helped her get the money. And when it all fell apart, he disappeared. I shook my head. You're lying. Am I? He said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it to me. It was an email. From Julia. I'll take care of Marcus. Once I'm out, we'll meet at the cabin. Everything will be ours, like we planned. The name at the bottom, Evan. I stared at it. Marcus stood and dusted off his jacket. So you see, it's not just about money. It's about betrayal. And karma. You're just the latest one she's using. Then he walked away again. I didn't go straight home. I sat in my car for almost an hour, just staring at the dashboard, wondering if I'd just seen the truth, or a trap. When I finally walked through the front door, Julia rushed to me. Where were you? I've been calling. Who's Evan? I asked. Her face dropped. Don't lie, I said. I saw the email. The one you sent him. The cabin. The plan. Her eyes filled with tears. It wasn't what you think. Then tell me what it was. She took a deep breath. Evan was a friend. Someone I trusted. Yes, we talked about getting away together. I was vulnerable. I didn't love him, I was just desperate. I needed help, and he offered. But once I was out, I realized I couldn't trust him either. He wanted the money for himself. That's why I cut contact. I stared at her, unsure what to believe anymore. Every time I thought I had the full picture, another piece shattered the frame. I didn't come into your life to hurt you, she whispered. I swear. I wanted to build something new. With you. But Marcus's words rang in my ears. You're just the latest one she's using. That night. I didn't sleep at all. Julia stayed in the bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at that printed email Marcus gave me, trying to figure out if it was real or just another one of his twisted games. Every word I'd ever believed about Julia suddenly felt questionable. Every moment, every "I love you," every glance across the dinner table, I couldn't tell if it was sincere or just well-practiced fiction. And still, despite everything, some part of me wanted to believe her. Because that's what love does to you. Even when your gut is screaming, your heart keeps whispering, maybe there's more to the story. The next morning, I decided I couldn't live in the middle anymore. I needed the truth, once and for all. So I called Julia into the living room. She looked like she hadn't slept either, eyes puffy, arms crossed over her chest like she was holding herself together. I need the truth, Julia, I said calmly. Not the edited version. Not the, I did what I had to do. I want the whole thing. Everything. And I don't want to have to find out another piece from Marcus. She looked at me for a long time. Then sat down. And began. Yes. I sent that email. I was scared and confused and needed a plan. Evan was someone I met through work. He wasn't a boyfriend, but he wanted to be. He offered to help me leave Marcus, helped me rent the car, gave me a contact for a safe place to stay. And yes, at one point, I thought I could build a life with him after Marcus. But the moment I got out and saw what freedom looked like, I realized Evan was just another version of Marcus. Controlling. Possessive. Entitled. I cut ties. I never met him at that cabin. I changed my number, blocked him, disappeared. I said nothing. Just listened. She continued. I kept the files. I kept the money. And I rebuilt myself. I worked my way up at the firm. I never used a dime of Marcus's money after those first few months. Everything I have now, I earned. And when I met you, for the first time in years, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. Her voice cracked, and she reached for my hand. I didn't come into your life with a plan. I came in with a hope. That maybe someone could love me without needing to own me. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I needed more. Then why didn't you tell me when he first messaged you? I asked. Why let it go this far? Because I thought I could handle it on my own, she said. Because I was ashamed. And because I didn't want to drag you into my mistakes. I stood and walked to the window again. Same spot where I first saw Marcus standing by the mailbox. Is the money still in that deposit box? I asked. She nodded. Yes. And so are the files. Good, I said. Because we're going to use them. 2 days later, I walked into a lawyer's office with Julia. A friend of mine from college, good guy, discreet. We gave him everything, the documents, the photos, the full story. He didn't say much at first. Just listened. When we were done, he leaned forward and said, Marcus has been smart. No direct threats, no evidence of blackmail, yet. But if we can get him to put something in writing, or record him admitting his intentions, we've got a case. That was all I needed to hear. I knew Marcus wouldn't walk away quietly. He wanted money, control, power. And men like him. They always slip up. They always talk too much when they think they're winning. So we set a trap. Julia messaged him using a burner phone, pretending to give in. I have the money. I want to meet. But you need to promise to disappear after this. I need that in writing. He responded within minutes. No problem. Once I get what I deserve, I'm gone. You have my word. Let's meet Friday night. Usual spot. That was enough. The lawyer called in a contact, former federal investigator turned consultant. They set up a discreet audio recording kit and told us to let the conversation play out naturally. No threats. No accusations. Just get him talking. So that Friday, I drove Julia to the park. She sat on the bench, envelope in hand, filled not with cash, but decoy papers and printed blank checks. I watched from the car, heart pounding, every muscle in my body coiled tight. Marcus showed up on time, smug as ever. They talked. And within 5 minutes, he said the words we needed. It's simple. I keep quiet, you pay. That's how this works. Boom. Got him. He left with the envelope, none the wiser. 10 minutes later, our lawyer had already forwarded the audio to law enforcement, along with the documents from the old investment scheme. The case wasn't airtight yet, but it was enough to open an investigation. And that's when everything changed. 3 days later, Marcus was arrested for fraud, blackmail, and obstruction. Turns out Julia's files contained more than she realized: names, numbers, even offshore account transfers that linked him to a much bigger operation. Investigators had been building a case for years, and what she had was the missing puzzle piece. We didn't celebrate that day. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like the end of something heavy, and the beginning of something uncertain. We sat on the porch that night, the air still, the neighborhood quiet. I never meant for you to get dragged into this, she said softly. I know, I replied. But you did. She looked down. And the truth is, I continued, I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I can forget how all this made me feel. Like I didn't know you at all. She nodded slowly. I'll give you whatever space you need. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. But I didn't want to leave. I wanted to heal. And maybe that meant starting from scratch. Not pretending it didn't happen, but choosing to build something new in its shadow. So I said, no more lies. From either of us. Ever again. She looked up at me with those tired, hopeful eyes. Deal. It's been 6 months since that night. Marcus is still awaiting trial. His lawyers are scrambling. The media caught on, but Julia never gave a statement. She didn't need to. She'd already said everything that mattered to me. We're still in the same house. Same porch. But it feels different now. Like something heavy finally moved off the foundation. We still have days when the silence feels awkward. When trust feels like something we're still earning, brick by brick. But we're trying. And sometimes, that's more powerful than starting over. Because now, at least, we know who we are.